Hello everyone. So this is a very random reading that I decided to do today. I've had this Jane Austen tarot deck for a very long time. It's one of the first decks I ever bought, I think. And I had a dream. I had a dream about Pride and Prejudice, about Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth. And it's so random, right? I've always been a fan and I've always wanted to use this deck regularly, but it's not a regular tarot deck. It leans more towards cartomancy than actual tarot reading, so that's why I think I've always shied away from it, because I'm not very fluent in cartomancy. But I thought we could just go with the flow today. Okay, the main purpose for this reading is, if there's anything bothering you, if you feel like your mind is in a very chaotic space right now, the purpose of this video is to distract you, maybe give you a little bit of advice, and just to, take your mind off things. Okay, so I've got my little cup of tea here and I'm wearing appropriate clothing. So I think we should just get started. We'll just keep pulling and see what pops out. I haven't planned a spread. Let's just create a storyline that could benefit us all. Okay, so this is the deck. It has 52 cards as against 78. And we'll see how it goes. I don't know all the characters. I mean, I love Jane Austen and I'm a huge fan of Pride and Prejudice and Emma in particular. Two of my dogs are kind of named after that era. So my oldest is Mr. Darcy and my youngest is called Lord Byron. He was a contemporary of Jane Austen, even though he wasn't a character in her books. Now, a word of warning, there is a lot of construction happening around my house and it is super quiet where I am. I mean, in this particular room. So you may pick up on a lot of sounds and I do apologize. I'm not very good at editing, so I will not be able to cancel that noise out for you. So these cards are, wow, okay. So they're kind of numbered like regular playing cards, but every suit has an element attached to it, like our regular wands, swords, cups and pentacles. So I will try my best to decipher the meanings clearly for you here, but I'm trying to just do this intuitively. Okay, so bear with me. Let's just get them all out and then we can see what we have here. Right, I think I want a few more. Let's get 3 more crossing cards. I think that would be appropriate. They're so unusual. It's gonna take me a while to I think I'll have to use this really often to get used to it, because I don't want to rely on the book so much, All right, I need to adjust the camera. Hang on a minute. Okay, let's get a sip of tea. Starting off with your first card, we have the 6 of Swords. And as we know, the 6 of Swords talks about moving on to calmer waters. And it talks about transition. It talks about heading for new shores and leaving disappointment behind as a whole. So I think this is something that you could be focusing on at this time. There could have been a lot of turbulence in your life, and I kind of see that because, I will talk about that when we get to it. But there is anxiety here, and I feel like instead of brewing in it and marinating in it, you have decided to make a change for yourself. There are cards of movement here. The next card we have is the Tower. The Tower, as we know, talks about, it talks about revelations. It talks about things coming to a head and shakeups happening in your life. It talks about some kind of enlightenment, and I love how they've illustrated this. You see that lighthouse right here. That is representing that lightning strike that we're so familiar with in the traditional tarot, Rider-Waite tarot. I think something has come to light for you, and it has finally made you understand that there needs to be a change. There needs to be a shift in whatever the situation is that you are dealing with here. The crossing card that we have for this is the Seven of Cups. And the Seven of Cups talks about choices. It talks about having to make a decision. Okay, so lots of teacups to choose from, but at the end of the day, you can't daydream forever and avoid making whatever decision it is that you need to make. Okay, now if this has to relate to your career, I feel like if there was a loss with that Tower moment here, you need to maybe start looking at other options, and you need to maybe decide what it is that you want to do for a living. Is there a particular job offer that you have on your table that you're not looking at, maybe because you feel it's not good enough? Maybe relook at it. It might just be beneficial for you. When this comes to relationships, I'm not saying, go into a rebound relationship right away, because we all know that isn't healthy. Maybe there are certain hobbies you can tap into. Maybe you could pick up reading again. We are doing a Jane Austen spread right here. What is it that will help you move on to those calmer shores, okay? Because you have been through that Tower moment, and you have that realization that, like I said, you don't want to marinate in this energy forever. Look at the different aspects in your life that could distract you at this time and hone into that. And it's very interesting. Okay, I'm going ahead of myself right here, but I will talk about it again when I get to it. The next row we have is the Eight of Wands. The Eight of Wands, as we know, talks about communication, and it talks about travel. It talks about movement in general. And we can see here there are vines that are growing very rapidly and swiftly, and there's nothing standing in their way. I feel like, even though this is a timeless reading, Mercury has finally come out of its shadow period, and things are going to start progressing and moving forward. There will be fewer obstacles and fewer challenges. And again, this could apply to any area of your life. The next card we have under this, I should have rethought this. This is so messy. Anyway, we have the Nine of Cups. And the Nine of Cups talks about happiness. And as far as I remember, this is Eleanor Dashwood from Sense and Sensibility. And I think this is the moment when she realizes that she is going to marry the love of her life, who was, what was his name? Edward Ferrars. So I'm not saying that this is a love reading or this relates to your relationship in any way. The Nine of Cups just talks about that independent happiness. It talks about wishes being fulfilled. So I feel like once you come to terms with the fact that movement right now is possible, and you are not stuck in a rut, okay? You are not stuck in a rut by any means. This is in your hands, right? Because with the crossing energy that we have here, we have the Two of Pentacles. And this, I remember, was speaking about Charlotte from Pride and Prejudice, and how she married, what was his name again? Mr. Collins. She married Mr. Collins just to cut her losses initially, right? She didn't want to be a financial burden on her parents. So I guess it was her way to compromise. I feel like you need to find where you can compromise in your life right now. What is it that you can move towards that could maybe it's not exactly what you wanted, okay, to start with. But like I said, remember when I spoke about your career, what is it that you feel might not be good enough for you, but something that you could maybe invest more time and energy in? Okay, maybe there is a friendship that you could nurture at this time. Maybe that friendship could blossom and actually help you gain a whole fresh new perspective on life. And like I said, maybe there is a job opportunity. Maybe there's a new business that you can start, that you can nurture with the Eight of Wands, So ask yourself that, what can you remove from your life and maybe add something of a lower value that you can nurture and make it high value again? Because whatever that is, it could lead to that personal happiness and that wish fulfillment that you are looking for at this time. Now, the next card we have is the Nine of, what is this? The Nine of Swords. Yeah, this is the anxiety that I was talking about. It's that excessive worry, okay? And I feel like it's unwarranted right now, because if you look, there are flowers everywhere, right? I'm getting that stop and smell the roses kind of vibe from this card, because when we are too, I mean, this is the purpose of my reading here, because I feel like sometimes we get so wrapped up in our own heads that we start nitpicking at the situation that we are dealing with. Maybe I could have done this better. Maybe I could have done that better. Maybe if this had happened, that would have happened. You know what I mean? It's like you start questioning everything and you drive yourself crazy. But that doesn't really lead to anything, right? Because the Nine of Swords is a very mental energy. It's not a physical energy. Because I still prefer the Nine of Wands to the Nine of Swords, because at least the Nine of Wands is an action card. It's you resisting something. It's you doing something. The Nine of Swords is just you sitting in your own head and making life more difficult for yourself. So I feel like now is a good time to get out of that energy. And like I said, that this is one of the main purposes of this reading. So I'm glad the deck is backing me up here. Now, the Three of Wands. The Three of Wands talks about preparation, as we know. And I like how they have depicted instruments on this card, because back in the old days, back in Jane Austen's time, women and gentlemen would, play their instruments and practice, because that's what made them perfect at their craft. So I think this is what is tying into this particular row here. You realizing that there is something that you can tap into. There is some kind of skill that maybe you've buried, maybe you haven't looked at, okay? Maybe you could pick up writing, maybe you could pick up painting. What is it that you could be remotely good at, that you could practice and perfect, okay? Because I think not only is that going to remove that anxiety that we're talking about, it will help you move on to those calmer shores, right? It'll get you out of your head, because as we know, an empty mind is a devil's workshop. Am I right? So maybe you could even pick up an instrument. I mean, it's pretty obvious right here. If you are musically inclined, pick up an instrument, learn how to play it. And that will not only distract you, it's also going to give you that sense of accomplishment that we're hoping for right here. Now, this is one of my favorite cards in the deck, because it's my favorite character from the Jane Austen novels, the Queen of Pentacles. It talks about security and is depicted by Emma. And Emma is independently wealthy, okay? She is very confident and she's happy in the comfort of her own home, to the extent where she doesn't even want to get married initially. She's so happy being the mistress of her house that she's fiercely independent when it comes to that. So I feel like this entire spread is asking you to get out of your head and look at things from a different perspective. Something that might not look so appealing to start with, but maybe you can hone on to that and make it as perfect as you would have wished it to be. Okay, so I'm gonna get rid of these cards and pull a few more. All right, because my purpose is to distract you here. I don't want you sitting in your own head right now. These cards are so beautiful. I could pull them all day. So we'll keep these aside and pull fresh ones. Whoa. Oh. All right, let's see what we have. Excuse me a minute. I'm just gonna set them all up and then we'll talk about them. The Ten of Wands is usually depicted by a really heavily burdened person, but how beautiful is that card right here? So the first card now that we have is the Jack of Clubs, which I think is like a combination of the Knight and the Page of Wands. It talks about energy, and it's depicted by, as far as I remember, Margaret Dashwood, who was the youngest sister in what book was it? Never mind. So she is originally full of energy and youth and good humor. Okay, so I think this is asking you to tap into that little child in yourself, the kid in yourself who didn't let anything get to you. You know, it's about being adventurous and exploring different parts of your personality that make you connect with that inner child in a better fashion. With the Four of Cups, the Four of Cups is depicted by Colonel Brandon in Sense and Sensibility, and he was prone to contemplation. Okay, he was prone to being silent, sensitive, and sometimes even rather grave. But what I would like you to focus on is that he is by himself, but he still has a smile on his face, right? He's busy reading, he's chilling, he's hanging out, he's enjoying nature. I feel like I'm getting very hermit-like vibes from this, though the hermit card is depicted by somebody else within this deck. But I think once you start enjoying your own company is when you can truly succeed at life, because that is when you don't need anybody else to complete you. You don't need variables affecting your life, because other people are variables. Okay, you are the only constant in your life, and that's a fact. So I think spending some time with yourself, maybe going through old childhood photographs, I don't know why I got this, might help you connect to that inner child in a better way. And that moment of peace, that moment of inner contemplation may help you realize what kind of traumas you could have gone through that could be affecting your life and your relationships and your personal mindset now, in the present. And resolving those traumas, resolving those challenges, and maybe accepting them is a good way to move forward. Okay, realizing that whatever could be holding you back could have stemmed from your past. And once you address it, it'll help you move forward. All right, we had a lot of cards of movement. Now, I'm not pulling any crossing cards because I don't feel like we need to. With the Two of Cups, it's beautiful how it's depicted by very heavy looking meals. When I was reading the book about this, I remember it spoke about an elaborate dinner party where there were many courses and one had to practice restraint in, for it to be the key to contentment. Okay, so it's like when you are grieving, when you are going through something, okay, I'm not calling anyone out, all right? I have been through this personally, and that's the only reason I'm speaking about this. When we are grieving, we feel like we have a free pass to do whatever it is that we want, all right? This may lead to excessive drinking, excessive eating. I'm not asking you to stop eating your ice cream on your little couch and Netflixing and binging and chilling. I am asking you to allow yourself moderation. Okay, allow yourself that freedom to do whatever it is that makes you feel better without, not at the risk of hurting yourself or harming yourself. All right, because with the 10 of Wands, it's one of my favorite cards. I feel like I say this for every card, but it's so beautifully illustrated. When we are overburdened, we fail to realize that those burdens are polishing us. And very simply, if you look at the number of books, this talks about hard work. It talks about working hard for knowledge and for success. Okay, so whatever hurdles and whatever burdens and challenges and obstacles you have gone through and the pressures that you have put on yourself, pressures make diamonds, right? We need to remember that. So instead of maybe regretting everything that you put yourself through, look at those challenges as tools that have made you shine. Okay, they have maybe increased your tolerance for pain, they have increased your tolerance for hard work, they've increased your tolerance for pressure, right? So I think you need to be a little kinder to yourself during this time. And I love how the last two cards are literally closing off the reading in the most spectacular fashion. We have the Ace of Pentacles, and it's depicted, it's called the World card here in this deck. It talks about completion. It talks about Okay, so how, you know how there's a bouquet, if you look at it, look at the illustration, it's a bouquet of flowers. It talks about one deserving that bouquet when a demanding endeavor or obstacle has come full circle to success, right? So what is it that you have completed? The obstacle and the issue that we were talking about at the start of the video, whether this was a relationship or a career opportunity or whatever it could be in your life, I feel like you will successfully emerge from it. You will successfully complete that journey, because we have, okay, see, don't even look at the last 2 cards, look at the last 3 cards, because the 10 of Wands is also a card of completion, because there's nothing else after it within that suit, right? The 10 of Wands is the last of the wands in the tarot. I feel like you're finally setting that burden down. You're finally realizing that life isn't as difficult as we make it out to be. It's all in our minds, it's all in our heads. So give yourself a pat on the back, maybe buy yourself some flowers, right? Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman or whatever, we all have divine masculine and feminine within us, right? Buy yourself some flowers, buy yourself some chocolates, go on a solo vacation, spend time with yourself, celebrate yourself. Why shouldn't you, right? And finally, we have the 6 of Cups, which we know is the card of soulmates, but it is depicted by the lovers here. And the 2 people here are Jane Bennett and Mr. Bingley from Pride and Prejudice, and how they love each other unaffected by neither pride nor prejudice. If this is not a love reading for you, I think you will finally get to live the life that you will love with all your heart. You will finally be living the kind of life that you can be proud of. And if this is a love reading for you, if that is what's on your mind, I feel like you will attract the perfect partner. I don't want to talk about exes returning. We don't have any judgment cards here. But the 6 of Cups does talk about a soulmate union. It does talk about childhood memories. So maybe there is a childhood sweetheart who could be coming back into your life, or it could be an ex resurfacing and finally making their feelings known. But either way, I feel like you will be in a very balanced place in your life overall, without any pride, without any prejudice affecting your decisions. Wow, this has been a stunning reading. It's been so lovely. I really, really like it. What I've gathered from this is, once you have decided to move on to those calmer shores and away from the turbulent waters of your life, is the first step to healing. It's easy for us to sit and marinate in our thoughts, and while it is all right to give yourself permission to grieve and to feel sorry for yourself, you're doing yourself an injustice by sitting in that for way too long. Okay, give yourself time to heal, but then pick yourself back up and pick up a hobby. It could be as simple as that. Whoever is watching, it doesn't necessarily have to mean a massive shift that has to take. You don't need to move countries. It could be as simple as picking up a book that could change your life. Okay, look for that one particular thing that could pull you out of that funk, because the minute you flip that switch, that journey is going to lead you here. All right, I hope I was successful at alleviating a little bit of your pain, and I hope I was successful at distracting you just a tiny bit. But yeah, I hope this helped you, and I hope you get out of whatever funk that you are in. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.